complexes, like a boss or a model, whatever, I would call specialists in that particular thing.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'm gonna summarize everything you just said into this one phrase. Beau knows, guys. Beau knows. Beau knows. If you can't tell,
Thank you.
Beau's man. He knows the game. Welcome back. This is episode 2 of the Career Investing Podcast. My special guest, Beau Beery.
Let's go.
And when you love what you do, you don't really think about retiring one day because it's fun. You know what I mean? It's fun being able to add value and sell buildings and do these different deals. I think that's really cool. But you said something again that I keep thinking about in my head as far as it being a skill, not necessarily knowing how to develop it, but knowing that when you do have it, how important it is and how to really utilize that. It makes me think about the things that drive us on a day-to-day basis as far as business leaders, people who are in the real estate profession, like what motivates us and kind of what helps us get through those days where somebody is redlining our contract or a buyer or seller is not being responsive or not the easiest to work with. What motivates you? What is like your why, if you had to say, like what keeps you going? What gets Beau out of bed on those days where it's like, man, I don't really want to deal with this today. What is it for you?
It's different from everybody. Mine's shallow, but it's what drives me. I live for cars. Bro, like I love cars. Like, so the answer to your question, if I'm in the thick of a transaction and I'm not enjoying what's going on and there's talks of lawsuits and crazy stuff going on, right? My number one, obviously, job is to get everybody to a closing without suing someone, right? And doing the best I can for the seller and the buyer getting a product he likes. Like all those things are important. And with my why within the business is I thrive off of people talking good about me. I'm sticks and stones may break your words hurt me. If you ever read the 5 love languages, right? I'm the one with words of affirmation. Right? Like when my wife says, Beau, your arms are looking ripped and your chest, your abs, and like, dude, I'm feeling awesome. Yeah. When I sell something for a customer, he's like, man, you did a great job. I mean, your communication was awesome. You talk to me every day. Love that stuff. So that my why within that is that feedback, that nourishment. I love to do good by folks. But I do all of that so that I can have free time for my hobbies and my family. Like, right. I mean, obviously, my wife and my kids, that's the most fun. That's the joy I have. But I think it's super important for people to have hobbies, something to look forward to yearn for. Cars is that thing for me. Washing them, driving them, tracking them, whatever, the car culture, all that stuff. So I look forward every weekend, no matter how bad a transaction is going or how good a market is going, I'm looking forward to taking that next trip or the weekend where I can do something with my car peeps.
That's so cool. I don't know if I've heard that answer on the podcast yet.
Yeah.
Cars. I love that. And speaking of cars, for those of y'all who don't know, I actually met Beau, I think it was last year in Birmingham, Alabama. We got the opportunity to drive Porsches.
Yes.
At the track. What was the name of the track?
Barber Motorsports.
Yeah. Yes. We got the opportunity to drive.
That was sick.
Some really nice Porsches around this really nice track, and I have to admit, for me, it's my first time ever driving a Porsche, and so I was a little bit hesitant and a little bit scared because I'm coming here, and I remember at the beginning he said, "Who all has driven in the Porsche before? Who all has driven the track before?"
And then
everybody in there, I'm like, dang.
Yeah. But you came strong towards the end.
Man, it was the training and the motivation. I got people like you, man. Josh, you feeling good. Just keep going and seeing you guys. But I say all that to say, like, talk about your love for cars, man. I think that's actually pretty unique. Outside of business, like I mentioned earlier, we're humans. And we have interests and likes. Yeah. And so just talk about, like, what do Porsches and cars mean to you? Yeah, and it's part of my brand, too. I've found that so many folks in real estate are big car people. Yeah. Right. They're car people, they're boat people, they're travel people. Those are, if you took sort of the top 4 or 5 things, that's what's common among all of them. Right. And so first of all, for me, the detailing side of cars
it's like, I'll equivalent, it's like mowing your lawn, right? When you see all the tall grass, you go mow it, you look back, you could smell the grass. The edge line is crazy good, right? And then you get your beer and you sit back and hey, babe, come over here. Yo, look at that grass. You don't see nothing sticking out of them blades, do you, right? Yeah, honey, you're doing good. You're doing good. So for me, I love the detail cars. And I think it all stems from, I have control of it, right? In our real estate business, we have zero control. I mean, it's so little because it's so people driven and people emotional, right? And a multifamily transaction has so many things going on. Every sale is a freaking miracle, truly a miracle when you think about all the moving parts. A car, I have control of how good that thing's going to look in the end. I detail the undercarriage, the engines, when you open the door, just kind of all the guts inside the door handles, everything. And I'm doing all my cars all the time. I love to be on the track. I don't have total control. I have control of the car. A tire could go out. There could be a thumbnail out there. Yes. But it's something that gives me that exhilaration that I have control of. I'm around other people who like it. Car shows, I love to see other people's touch on cars and their control on the car. And so many folks are in the real estate business that you're meeting. So it's just, again, it's marrying my business with my hobby and family and all that stuff. It's been awesome for me.
I love that so much. I think that is so cool when you can take that love for something and really intertwine that with your business.
Yeah.
Like I told you when you were pulled up here today, I was like, man, I can't wait to see what point. And you put up in the F1. I was like, dang it.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, man, that was a great trip. And again, I just love how we can have those things that intertwine for us.
Yeah.
In business and whatnot. I kind of was thinking about some other things as far as your brand and your business and what you've been able to do. And I keep thinking about, if someone wants to kind of be where you are or follow your footsteps, right? If they want to build a business from the ground up, work really hard, because I know it takes a lot of work, a lot of dedication, a lot of sacrifice. What's some advice that you would give to someone listening saying like, hey man, if you do these 3 things or this one thing, or you take this perspective and apply it, you can be successful, you can accomplish what you want to accomplish?
Yeah. Great question. I would say one of the top complaints about a broker is communication, right? I mean, just answering the phone and emails alone sets you apart from so many people. And the people who are listening to this right now, they're just kind of like, oh, that's a boring answer. And of course I would call back. It doesn't happen. People just doing the basic communication stuff doesn't happen. I would say getting a CRM right off the bat. That's going to keep you super organized. There's no way you can use Excel spreadsheets or Outlook or whatever to run your business, right? Always entering in history about things that have been said and talked about on the phone and scheduling your next events. Hiring an assistant as soon as possible, as soon as you can afford it. I recognize it may be several years down the road, but hiring someone, I would get coaching day one. Get a freaking loan, ask your parents, whatever it is, pay the $10,000, $15,000 a year, if you can, to start you off with the proper coaching. That's one thing that if I had that year one, lights out. Lights out. It would be crazy the kind of volume I would be doing if I had that direction from day one, right? Instead of like year 10 or 11 or whatever it was. Right. In addition, I hate to do a plug, but I've got to do a plug. Because of that reason, I've had so many brokers over the last 20 years calling me and saying, hey, how do you do that? And how do what video camera did you use here? And how do you sell this? And what do you say on the phone? And how do you get so many listings and all this stuff, right? So I started a coaching platform just for multifamily brokers from around the country. We started in October last year. We just had our first 20 go through the program. We got 3 or 4 months left. We're starting our second round. So I think it's 2 times a year. We bring in only 20 multifamily brokers. It's all done by Zoom. We have a call a month with some follow-up to it, and I open up my entire playbook. I mean, we go from soup to nuts on how to build your entire business and everything I do. Like I just lay it out there. I don't care if my entire book is out there. There's plenty of business out there, and everyone does their own thing their own way.
Right.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I didn't even know that you did that.
Yeah,
I'm glad you plugged that in. That's very valuable for anybody who's listening who wants to join Beau's mastermind group or multifamily brokerage group.
Yep.
Where you kind of educate people. I realized too that as you were talking, I would be remiss if I didn't ask you your opinion on today's multifamily market. You know, what do you think about the market? Where is it going? I know we talked about this a little bit over lunch, but yeah, you could give some insight into what you foresee.
Sure. So we are in June of 2023, yep. Right? So we've gone through, let's hope, most, if not all, of the interest rate hikes, or close to it. Yeah. Who knows? So a lot of change, obviously, right? The three things that I'm dealing with the most, the reason why the number of transactions is down by 70%, okay, is because of these three factors. Number one, debt. That's the obvious one, right? I mean, interest rates have gone up 350 basis points. Loan to values are way down, so you're using more of your own money, which means your IRR is lower. And debt coverage ratios have maybe peaked up a little bit, right? So there's debt component. That alone can slow down a market tremendously. Then alone, insurance. Bro, insurance has gone crazy, right? So not even, call it 3-4 years ago, insurance was $300 to $500 per unit per year. Now in the northern half of Florida, it's $1,000 to $1,500 a unit a year. And then south of us, it can go from $1,500 to $3,000 a unit a year, right? I mean, unbelievable. I have calculated on a traditional 100-unit apartment complex, averaging a traditional $1,300 a month rents, you would have to increase rents $46 a month for every $500 a unit increase in insurance. And we've had threefold insurance oftentimes, right? So to the tenant, they're not getting anything in return. It's not like you can just increase rent $46 a month because your insurance went up, right? Without giving them back something, right? So it's really tough. So the guy who bought the value-add apartment complex, who was going to take up rents $150 a month, 50 just got taken from him. So already his returns are skunk, right? And then the third component that no one's talking about, which I believe is the number one effect on value, period, even more than insurance and more than debt, is because of insurance and debt, the pro forma assumptions buyers are putting in their pro forma. And I'll give you, for example. So call it a year ago, before the interest rate hikes, as a broker, if an apartment complex, let's say 100 units, the average in-place rent was $1,000 a month, and the market was $1,300. So I, as the broker, would take that listing, and in order to justify the price, I would need to show that you could get to that $1,300 in a 2-year renovation cycle, right? And so I would go out and find 8 or 9 apartment complexes, right, that met that, and you know, not all of them would maybe be the best comps, right? Let's admit it, right? But people would buy that, and most of the time they got the $1,300, right? Because the market was going crazy, right? Then call it 6 months ago, which was several interest rate hikes in, but not all of them, right? You couldn't do that anymore. Now the buyer wants to see, out of 100 units, 20 or 30 of those units, right, has hit that 1,300. So you've shown some track record, and now you can get the rest of them, right? Now you can't even do that, right? Now the 1,300, you know, unless it's just true, like if you've got stuff that's next door, same kind of product, getting those exact kind of rents, and you can see the remodeling, right? It's tough to sell that stuff. And so the comps can't be too far away on the opposite side of town or in a totally different market, right? And even then, the 1,300 might be 12, 15 or something like that. And instead of annual increases of 5 and 6%, they may be using 2 and 3%, right? And then other assumptions about property taxes, right? I mean, they're going to want the 80% assessment. And then on insurance, rather than thinking you can get what's in place, everyone's pricing out insurance ahead of time, right? So the assumptions, any one of those 3 components can affect the market. We got freaking all 3 of them, right? So I believe going forward, I believe over the next, call it 2024, maybe it might take as long as 2025. I think we'll have our, hopefully our first, whether it be minor or not, interest rate adjustment downward, which I think could spark a lot of transactions. Right. And given that that's a good year and a half beyond some of the fast interest rate hikes, that will be enough time in the future where also rents have now reached a point where it now makes sense to sell at the prices they would have considered the year and a half ago. Right. So to sum up, I believe that sellers aren't necessarily going to be increasing their sale price a year and a half from now. The metrics will have met the point in the future at which they will now sell for what they want now, if that makes sense.
It does. And it makes me think about, obviously a lot of times I'm looking from a buyer's perspective on, what deals are selling for, debt, and assumptions when we underwrite deals. And so it makes me think about how some of the factors that you just mentioned, how they affect the economy and transaction quality and quantity. So I really want to ask you this, because I'm actually curious, and I get curious when I'm talking to brokers just about their take on the market and the deals they're moving. Let's say, for example, you have a seller, right? And most sellers don't, in my opinion, probably don't really care about any of that. They just say, I got a building, I want to get my building sold at this price point or somewhere close to here, right? Mm-hmm. How do you communicate all of that to a seller and kind of manage expectations to a seller?
Yeah.
So one, they're happy they can get, what they want to get and meet their goals. And then two, so they still love you. Because obviously in business, it's easy sometimes. Somebody brings you a deal, they want to do it at this, you say, oh yeah, I can do it. You know what I mean? But obviously there's other factors that come into it. So how do you personally kind of manage those expectations and kind of give a clear-cut story, like, hey, this is where the economy is, this is what I really can do? How do you do that?
A lot to unpack there. I'll try to be brief. I would say, first of all, I hear a lot from investors, and especially on social media, that sellers are out of touch. Their land is, their mind is still a year ago. There's what's the word? There's still price disconnect between buyer and seller, or whatever those keywords are. My argument is no. There's no price disconnect whatsoever, because a seller is a buyer. It's the same human being. The seller is not stupid. They don't think that their property is necessarily worth X when the market may be here. What they're saying is, Beau, if you can sell it for that price, great. If not, whatever, it's all good. I'm earning the highest NOI I've ever earned in my entire life, which is a fact. If there's no reason for them to sell, a loan coming up, or they, in their prospectus to investors, said, I'm selling in 2023, there's really no reason to sell, right? So I want to get through that there is no price disconnect from buyers and sellers. They just don't have to sell, right? Or at least most of them don't. In terms of setting expectations, the way I do it is, and I don't know if many brokers do this, I don't think they do, at least from my conversations with friends, is I'm very open book on showing my underwriting to sellers, because what I first tell them right off the bat is you and I are in a partnership. You're my seller, I'm your broker. You and I are working together to create a storyline that can be backed up numerically and by the market, so that we can find that one guy or gal who will buy this for the price you want. I said, so seller, what I'm going to do is I need your T12, I need your last year's financials, 2022, and your current rent roll. Give me a list of CapEx that you've done. And then seller, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in my model. I'm going to go through all of it. I'm going to come up with a list of questions that I don't understand about what you just gave me. That's my first round of questions to you. You're going to answer them, Mr. Seller. I'm probably going to have a much smaller second round of questions. And then, Mr. Seller, what I want to do is I want to get on a Zoom with you where I share my Excel spreadsheets on all my assumptions, because, Mr. Seller, you know this property way better than I do, right? I know the market very well, right? And I do a lot of transactions, but you own your asset. You smell it all the time. You know where the flowers are. You know where the dead bodies are. You know it's been tough to lease or not lease and all that stuff. I don't know these things. And so since you and I are on a team, I want to go through all my assumptions, because you may see something that I assumed and you're like, whoa, Beau, you don't need to have that in there. That's my fault. I shouldn't have had that in there. I bought so-and-so and that's for a different property, or that was a CapEx item and I forgot to pull it out, whatever it was, right? And Beau, I don't know why you're putting in 2% annual appreciation. I can give you my other 6 years of rent roll and show you that I've been running 4.6 every year, right? So on as a team, we make these little things. And my point in doing that is, number one, I want to know that this is he and I on a team, not he versus me. And when I say he interchangeably he, she, that we're as a team, right? Because all too often it's seller versus several brokers, BOVs. And you don't ever want to be in a position as a seller where you're trying to sell me as your broker on what you think the value is. To have to sell your own broker who you're hiring to sell to someone else. You don't want to be in that position, right? You want to be on the same page. If you can't get on the same page, then maybe hire another broker, right? And hope that he's telling you the right stuff, right? Because there's a lot of brokers who just take listings regardless of price because they know if they bring you 15 offers in the range they think it was and you wanted this, that hopefully you'll do the deal, right? Right? So in the beginning, I had to go through all these assumptions. And so if my price still isn't where they want it to be, I'll then plug in their price. They'll see what happens to the IRR, the cash on cash, the debt coverage ratio, the cash flow multiples, and they'll see how much it went down. And then I'll say, okay, well, you see how much it went down? Let's play with some other assumptions. Let's see what rents would have to be right now, okay, or in a year from now in order to meet 20 million instead of my 17. Oh, well, in a year, you have to have gone up $180 a month. Oh, Mr. Seller, by the way, I haven't even increased the renovation cost per unit. Let me go ahead and make that change. Oh, you see how I did that? So together, I don't think many people do that, right? But my whole point is that instead of him just creating a number in his head beforehand without any actual financial evidence and hearing from someone like a broker who is out there having thousands of conversations they can't have. It's not like you're able to call up 50 different sellers and have the kind of conversations I do, right? Because we're having sort of client relationship conversations. They're not going to tell you their secret sauce. Right. I'm hearing the secret sauce, so I understand how the buyers are thinking in their heads. And so I want to help that seller understand what the calculations will be. Even though they are buyers, what happens when they're in sell mind frame is sometimes it changes a little bit. And so I like to have, so that's how I set expectations is I literally go over my underwriting together. And so they can see the different changes that happen and what would that picture have to look like ahead of time. In addition, because I track every single sale in all the markets I cover, I have a huge amount of data. So any one apartment complex, I can pull a good 6 or 7 sales comps from different markets, and I create what's called like an avatar. So ahead of time, before we even do underwriting, a guy may call me up and say, hey, Beau, we're thinking about selling our 150 units over in Jacksonville, Florida. It's market rate deal. It's located over here. Our average rent is $926 a month. It was built in 1974, blah, blah, blah. I can go pull all my big data from my Excel spreadsheets, and I can pull 6, 8, 10 comps, or I can pull a whole asset class, B minus, B plus, whatever. And I can say, hey, based on your in-place rents and age, I have 9 sale comps that the avatar combined says that you should be at this price per unit, this is your gross rent multiple. And if it's super far off, we got to figure out why that is, right? So it kind of just gives a good calibration. A lot of folks will call me with a number in their head. And I'm like, bro, it's either way more or way less than that, right? Yeah. And by the way, here's actual data. Here are the 9 apartment complexes. Tell me how your junk is different than this.
See, I think 2 things that you said that were so that stood out to me that I thought were so important is one, going through the underwriting with them and showing them what you're seeing.
Yeah.
Kind of that transparency. I think that's what sticks out really a lot for me when it comes to you having a seller-broker relationship and being able to be successful and get deals done.
Yeah.
I think that speaks a lot for your track record, and I can obviously see how that comes into play. And then you said something that, for me, when you said, I was like, it's so true. Like, sellers are buyers. They're just in a seller mode right now.
Right.
And it's funny because a lot of times, if someone, a broker just said, hey, I have a seller, the first thing that comes to mind is mom and pop, right? That's the first thing I'm probably think of is a mom and pop, someone who is in a distressed situation or something of that nature, which isn't the case a lot of the times. It is sometimes.
Yeah.
But a lot of times it's not.
The smaller the deal, the more it's mom and pop.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people who are sophisticated who buy and sell deals, and they're just selling right now. But they're also active buyers who buy other deals. And so that's a really good point, especially when you're thinking in terms of the economy and and what things are being priced for and what things are selling for compared to 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And where you think they are going to now. And we talk about this at lunch. There are people who are still playing the game no matter what. Like the real people who want to win, they're buying, they're figuring out ways to do deals.
Yes.
No matter what.
Especially in this market, I was telling you at lunch that what I get told by many, many investors, and crazily enough, folks who own quite a bit of units, oftentimes will tell me we're chilling out for a little bit. We're just sitting on the side, right? Now, who am I to say that that's right or wrong? Because I'm a broker and don't own 4,000 units like some of these folks, right? But in my mind, just logically speaking, you have a zero chance of ever buying anything if you aren't fully in the game looking, right? So I believe in slower markets like this, there's a lot less competition. I'm seeing it now, right? There's a lot less people who are out there. That doesn't mean there's not going to be less offers. I still think there'll be the same number of offers, at least on the ones that I'm working on. But a lot of the folks who might have won previous deals aren't there because they're sitting on the sides. And all you're doing is decreasing the probability. And in this business, one of the traits I've seen of the elite investors I write about isn't that they're smarter or better or have more money or better debt relationships or whatever that is, right? They're not so much better than you at doing that. That's why they do more deals. They just see more deals. Big difference. And you only see more deals one way. Brokers are bringing you the deals, right? And you're actually looking at them. If a broker hears you're shut down for a while, it's literally just a check mark in my CRM. This dude ain't buying anymore. He never sees my emails again because I don't want to bother him. Yeah. I don't want to send him a bunch of stuff in my inbox. I don't want to become that guy. I uncheck him. Now, do you think out of 985 investors who own all the assets, I'm going to think about a year from now, who was all the people who said they weren't buying? Let me call them up and see if they're still buying. No. Sometimes they remain unchecked. Right? Now, maybe I'll eventually get to them and ask them, but the last thing you want to do is put out there that you're on the sideline.
Oh, my goodness. Guys, if you're not listening to this, these relationships with brokers are so important. If you want to win at real estate and be successful, you have to be relationship-based, especially with people who are actually showing you the deal.
Yeah, and I want to make sure everyone understands. I'm not trying to like build the broker like they're some amazing superhuman. It's literally the opposite off the times, right? It's just the way this transactional part of real estate works, right? If you own a $25 million asset, not many of those folks get a phone call from someone they don't know directly, some buyer, right? Who says, "Oh, I love your asset. We buy those kind of assets. Can I buy it?" And the seller says, "Yeah, sounds good. That sounds like maybe selling to you for a 5 or 10% discount instead of exposing it to the market with a broker and getting 25 offers in 2 weeks. Sounds like a good idea to me," right? Doesn't happen that often, right? And so it's just the way this business works is everyone knows hire the person whose job it is over a 20, 25-year career to build the kind of relationships with that number of people who are able to, in an instant, find the ones who want this exact kind of asset, pay the right price, negotiate it out, and get it closed, right? If I wanted to learn how to buy and sell apartment complexes like a boss or remodel, whatever, I would call specialists in that particular thing.
Absolutely. And I'm going to summarize everything you just said into this one phrase. Beau knows, guys. Beau knows. If you can't tell,
thank you.
Beau is the man. He knows the game. And I really just want to thank you for giving us that context and that insight into what that really looks like practically, and really in the state of the market and kind of what's to come. Man, I really appreciated so much of the knowledge that you've given us, and I hate for this to end, but I do want to kind of wrap up this segment. But I want to ask this last question to give people something to take away with, something to make them feel, more connected, like they can be a little bit more inclined to pursue some of the things you pursue or be where you're at, man. What are some of the people you're listening to? What are some of the things that you're reading? Who are some of the personalities that you watch as influences on social media?
Yeah.
Kind of give us the insight into the content you're consuming.
I have to hit it in a couple different ways. I would say like LinkedIn is probably my top. In my in my opinion, and through I've actually done research on this as a commercial real estate broker. I've tried every social media outlet. For me, LinkedIn was by far number one, right? The other platforms didn't have the same kind of followership, the same kind of content back and forth, the camaraderie, the help, from others. So within LinkedIn, I like Barry Wolf. Barry Wolf is a Marcus and Millichap triple net guy. And even though I'm a multifamily guy, he just is a great source of content. In Florida, Joe LaFleur. He's a broker right here in Orlando. Love that dude. He and I are, and a guy named Jamie May, who's a phenomenal broker. We're the only 3 independents that I know who are not associated with a national brand. And I only mention that because if you think about 3 independents having done as well as we have, how resourceful we have to be in order to compete with larger brokerages, those are the folks you want to follow. They're putting out really, really good stuff. And then in terms of books, I mean, How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's a great one, man. It's just it's boring to say. I hate saying it, but it's one you just have to read every couple of years. The other one is that I just finished. Why We Sleep. Dude, let me just tell you something. If I could go back in time and learn how important sleep is, you wouldn't believe all the things it causes. Now, listen, coming up as a 20 and 30-something-year-old, I get you're going to work your tail off. You're trying to build a name. You're going to work those 80 hours. And, that might be okay for a period of time. But hustling constantly, driving, having no personal time, no family time, not getting enough sleep, not getting the 8 hours of sleep, it ain't good long term. It causes so many different diseases, stresses, depression. And frankly, it also gets you to the point where, gosh, what if something happens to you and now you look back and you're like, your entire life, you did nothing but like hustle. You didn't have cars or family or whatever that hobby was. And you still never get to that point. So I finished this book not too long ago, and it really changed my whole perspective. I changed my workout times when I start with work. Like now the focus is these 8 hours. It's amazing how sharper you get. Whoo, how faster your decisions are. The ideas for business improvement that have come from me in just the last several months have been earth-shattering. Not to mention just less irritability, better at your workouts. Bro, look at these arms. I'm already, what? My wife says when I do this, I look like a coat hanger.
Oh my goodness.
So that's books. And then what else?
Any social media influencers, anybody that's, I guess, of celebrity that you really like, or it doesn't have to be, but.
Yeah, let me think here. Gosh, I'd have to think about that one, man. I've got my LinkedIn set up where if anyone doesn't know this, on LinkedIn, you can go and click on the bell, just kind of like on YouTube, you can click on the bell icon. That way you're made aware of folks. Right. So I think you get 20. I have all 20 filled out. And so when you go to your feed, anything those people have posted comes up right away. And over time, I am switching those people in and out. If their content gets boring or they get on some stint about politics or race or religion, they're out of my life forever kind of thing, right? So I'm always switching people out. But I think when you think about 20 major influencers on a social network who you're seeing their stuff first, that alone is huge when you think about the kind of content coming out of that.
Absolutely. Man, this was a fun, man. I told you we're gonna have a great lunch.
Yes.
We're gonna have a great show. And I think people got a lot of great nuggets out of this, man. Like I said, I hope people had the speakers on, writing the notes, taking stuff down, because I think some of the stuff that you said was really impactful as far as how someone can achieve what they want to achieve in life and real estate.
Yeah.
And kind of pursue their business goals to the best of their ability. I really love a lot of things that you got to hit on and touch base about. And so I really hope a lot of the viewers get to take something from it and really add value to their business. Before we end off, man, tell people where they can find you. Shout out your social
media,
your books,
YouTube and anything, man. Sure. 3 ways. So number one, you got to buy the book, Multifamily Investors Who Dominate. If you're in multifamily, it's on Amazon as a hardcover, Audible and Kindle. Second place is my website, beaubeery.com. You guys can spell it right down there. So if you're an investor, whether you invest in Florida or not, the reason you want to go to my website is you'll see all kinds of stats and stuff, not just on my landing page, but if you go to the resources button, you'll see all the markets I cover. And the reason you want to click on those markets, whether you buy them or not, is I want you to see the kind of data I track. Because if you can track that kind of data in the markets you buy in, California, New York, whatever, you'll master it. And a lot of this business is about being able to react in time, okay? If it takes you 3 weeks before you start underwriting a deal, brokers already got 15 offers. It's lights out. You need to know markets like ASAP, right? And then the third way is my YouTube channel. It's called Beau Knows Multifamily. I got all kinds of playlists for beginners, advanced level investors, sometimes new listings on there. And I'm on every social media outlet, but LinkedIn is probably my most responsive one.
Awesome. If you put all the socials right here, everybody know where to follow you, man. Beau,
yeah.
It's been a great time. Thank you so much.
Hey, you bet. Thanks for having me over.
We're Invested Podcast is produced by Atrium Management Company. Thanks for tuning in. And don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe.